Okay, so what frequencies do we really need to capture? Well, humans hear the lowest notes that we can hear generally, and I should preface this by saying this is different for every person. Everybody is different, um, and there's a lot of factors that play into your hearing. If you are older and have played in a whole bunch of rock bands, like this guy, the upper range of your hearing is going to be a lot lower. But assuming you have perfect hearing, you probably hear on the low end down to about 20 hertz. That's like, think of the lowest sound you can imagine. Very, very, very low. That's probably about 20 hertz. And on the top, it's about 20,000 hertz. Now, some people can hear up to 22,000, 20, you know, 22,000 is probably the absolute max, but maybe a little bit over that. Some people can only hear up to about 17 or 18,000. I think I tested it once in my hearing at this point in my life because of playing in a lot of rock bands and damage to my ears. Caps out at about 16,000 hertz at this point. But that's roughly the range of human hearing: 20 hertz, 20,000 hertz. Now, interestingly, different animals hear things in different ranges. Dogs can hear sounds much higher than that. And other animals have different hearing. But we're not making recordings for dogs. We're making recordings for humans. So this is what we care about. Now, we sometimes abbreviate this to 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Remember that K here means 1,000. So 20,000 hertz. And hertz is how we measure frequency. Okay? So we can hear 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Now, according to the Nyquist theorem, if we want to represent 20,000 hertz, we need a sampling rate that must be twice as high as the highest frequency we want to represent. So if we want to represent 20,000 hertz, we need a sampling rate that is at least double that. So 40,000 hertz. Now, remember what I said, some people can hear higher. Some people can hear up to 22. Okay, so that gets us up to 44,000 hertz. And maybe we give a little bit of room on the top and say we want to, let's say we want to represent, let's say record up to 22,500 hertz. That's the highest frequency we're going to be able to record. And to do that, we need to record at 44,100 samples per second, SPS, samples per second. Okay, that is in accordance with the Nyquist theorem. So if we want to record 22,500 hertz as like the highest frequency that we're going to be able to record, that's a little bit higher than pretty much anybody can hear, then we need a sampling rate of 44,100 samples per second, according to the Nyquist theorem. That gets us one sample per cycle of a waveform moving that fast. So that's why we're at 44,100 samples per second. So back to our other question. What happens if we increase our sampling rate? It doesn't necessarily mean that we're recording at a higher fidelity. It means that we can record higher frequencies. So if we record a sampling rate at, let's duplicate this, let's get rid of all of this. So if we want to record up to the frequency of 44,100 hertz, if we want to record that frequency twice as high as anyone can hear, then we need to record at 88,200. Now, why would we want to do that? That's twice as high as anyone can hear. Why would we record all of that data way up high? The reason is there are some theories, and proven pretty much, that while we don't consciously hear frequencies way up there, they still influence the tone in the range that we can hear. For example, if you hear a whole orchestra, there's a lot of upper harmonics, way higher than we can hear, that really kind of add a color to the sounds that we can hear. So recording all of that information influences the tone of what we do hear. So if I was going to record a punk band, I'm not going to record them at 88,200 samples per second, right? That's just a waste of data. I might record them at 48,000 samples per second, only because that's kind of becoming a standard. That'll get me some of those upper frequencies of the distortion and stuff like that. But if I'm going to record an orchestra, I'm going to record them at 88,200 samples per second because I want to get all of that extra stuff. Maybe even higher. Maybe I want to record it twice as high as that. So if you care about those upper frequencies, you're recording a very delicate sound, something like that, then yeah, crank up your sampling rate and you'll be able to get those super high frequencies that we can't consciously hear but influence what we are hearing. But if you don't care about that, record at 44,100, the standard.